You ever notice how the moment a man becomes predictable, everything starts to fade? Her attention, her tone, the way she used to look at him. It's not loud at first, it's subtle. Like a slow leak you don't notice until the pressure is gone. And most men never see it coming, because they think consistency alone earns respect. But here's the truth nobody tells you. A woman doesn't lose respect because you're a bad man. She loses respect because she has you figured out. Completely, every reaction, every move, every word, it becomes a script she's already memorized. And once that happens, mystery dies, tension dies, and respect quietly follows. This is where most men start chasing harder, trying to fix it, not realizing they're digging deeper into predictability. And today, we're breaking that pattern, because if she can predict you, she can control how she feels about you. And if she controls that, you've already lost the game. Today's men are afraid to mess up, so they play it safe. They text at the same time every day, respond the same way, show up with the same energy, thinking stability equals value. But what they don't understand is this. Attraction isn't built on comfort alone. It's built on emotional variation, tension, unpredictability, the kind that keeps someone mentally engaged even when you're not around. And when you remove that, when every version of you becomes expected, she stops feeling anything new. And once emotions go flat, respect starts to drop, not because she wants it to, but because there's nothing left to stimulate her curiosity. And here's where it gets dangerous. Predictable men become readable, and readable men become controllable. She knows exactly when you'll reply, how you'll react if she pulls back, what you'll say if she tests you, and once she has that power, the dynamic shifts. You're no longer the man she looks up to, you're the man she manages. And that's a silent downgrade no man notices until it's too late. Think about real life. The guy who always answers immediately, always agrees, always reassures. He thinks he's doing everything right, but in reality, he's removing all tension from the interaction. And tension is what creates emotional spikes. Without it, everything becomes flat, boring, predictable. And respect cannot survive in boredom. Now compare that to a man who isn't chaotic, but isn't fully predictable either. He doesn't react instantly. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't reveal everything about himself at once. There's a pause in him, a depth she can't fully map out, and that unknown keeps her engaged, keeps her guessing, keeps her respecting, because she knows she can't fully control what she doesn't fully understand. And that's the key difference. It's not about being inconsistent or toxic. It's about not becoming emotionally scripted, not turning yourself into something she can mentally automate. Because the moment she does that, you stop being interesting. And once you stop being interesting, respect begins to quietly disappear. There's a psychological shift that happens when someone can predict you with accuracy. Your presence loses weight, because there's no longer a question attached to it. No curiosity, no anticipation, and anticipation is where value is born. Think about it when she doesn't know if you'll text tonight, if you'll show up, if you'll respond the same way. Her mind stays engaged. She thinks about you more. She feels more. But when every action becomes certain, when she can say, "He's going to text me in an hour," and she's right every time, you've removed anticipation completely. And without anticipation, your presence becomes routine, and routine kills emotional intensity. Now here's the part most men don't want to hear. Once you become routine, you become replaceable, not because you lack qualities, but because you lack impact. Your presence no longer shifts her emotional state. It just fills space. And anything that just fills space can be swapped without resistance. This is why some men get replaced by someone objectively worse. It's not about who's better on paper. It's about who creates more emotional movement. Unpredictability creates movement. Predictability creates stillness. and stillness feels like stagnation. Now bring this into real life. You always pick up her calls, always available, always saying yes. You think you're showing reliability, but what you're actually doing is removing any sense of uncertainty. And uncertainty is what keeps people invested, not insecurity, but controlled unpredictability, the kind that says, he has a life, he has depth, he's not always within reach. And that's what builds respect, because she sees that your world doesn't revolve around her reactions. Your actions aren't based on pleasing her. They're based on your own internal structure. And that creates a sense of authority. And authority is respected not because it's forced, but because it feels solid, grounded, unshaken. And when a man operates like that, he becomes difficult to predict, not in a confusing way, but in a grounded, self-controlled way. And that balance is what keeps both attraction and respect alive. There's a quiet mistake most men make when they feel a connection. They start opening up too fast, sharing everything, their plans, their fears, their routines, their emotions, thinking transparency builds closeness. And while honesty matters, overexposure destroys intrigue, because the moment she feels like she has seen all of you, there's nothing left to discover. And discovery is what keeps attraction alive. Think about it in real life. When you meet someone new and you can't fully read them, your mind keeps going back to them, trying to understand, trying to figure them out. That mental loop creates emotional investment. But when everything is laid out too early, there's no loop, no curiosity, no reason for her mind to return to you. And when her mind stops returning, her emotions slowly disconnect. And here's where power shifts without you even noticing. When you reveal everything, she no longer needs to earn access to you. You've already given it away freely, without resistance. And anything given without effort is rarely valued long-term. Now, this doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you become layered. You don't rush to explain yourself. You don't overshare your next move. You don't react emotionally to every situation. You allow parts of yourself to unfold over time, and that pacing creates depth, and depth creates respect. Because she feels like there's more to you than what she currently sees. And that more keeps her engaged, keeps her invested, keeps her respecting your presence. Now compare that to a man who tells everything in the first few weeks. His entire life becomes an open book, predictable, accessible, fully mapped. And once someone is fully mapped, they lose mystery, and without mystery, attraction fades into familiarity. And familiarity without emotional tension turns into boredom. And boredom is where respect quietly disappears. So the real power isn't in hiding who you are. It's in controlling when and how you reveal it. Because a man who understands timing controls perception, and perception controls how much he is valued. A man who reacts instantly, emotionally, and predictably is a man who can be controlled without effort. Because once someone understands your triggers, they can guide your behavior without you even realizing it. And this is where most men lose respect without ever seeing the moment it happened. It's in the small reactions, getting irritated when she pulls back, over-explaining when she questions you, seeking reassurance when energy shifts. Each reaction becomes data, and that data builds a pattern, and once that pattern is clear, you're no longer unpredictable, you're programmable. Now think about real life. She takes longer to reply, and you immediately double text. She changes her tone, and you try to fix it. She tests your patience, and you react emotionally. What you think is effort, she reads as lack of control. Because a man in control of himself doesn't get pulled by every shift in energy. He observes first, he responds second, and sometimes he doesn't respond at all, and that restraint creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates respect. Because she can't easily predict how you'll react. And that unpredictability makes her think twice before testing you again. Now this isn't about playing games, It's about emotional discipline, the ability to stay grounded regardless of external behavior. Because when your emotions are stable, your actions become less predictable, not because you're random, but because you're not reacting on impulse. And that makes you harder to read, harder to manipulate, harder to control. And control is the opposite of respect. Nobody truly respects what they can easily control. They might tolerate it. They might even keep it around, but they won't respect it, and deep down they know it. So the real shift happens when you stop reacting to every little thing, when you allow silence to exist, when you don't rush to correct, explain, or chase. That's when your presence starts to feel different, heavier, more grounded, more difficult to move, and that weight is what creates respect. Because she realizes this is not a man she can easily influence. This is a man who moves on his own terms, and that realization changes everything. Most men think being constantly available makes them more appreciated, more secure, more respected. But in reality, it does the opposite, because when your time, attention, and presence are always accessible, they lose weight. They stop feeling valuable, and value is not created by how much you give. It's created by how limited it feels. Think about real life. Anything that is always there, always reachable, always guaranteed, slowly becomes taken for granted, not because people are bad, but because human nature adapts quickly. What was once exciting becomes normal, and what becomes normal stops being appreciated. Now apply that to how you show up. If you're always replying instantly, always available to meet, always adjusting your schedule, always prioritizing her over your own path, you're sending a silent message. My life revolves around you. And while that might sound romantic on the surface, it quietly lowers your perceived value. Because respect is built on seeing that a man has priorities beyond you, that his time is structured, that access to him is earned, not assumed. And when that structure is missing, when she feels like she can reach you anytime without resistance, your presence becomes background noise, something constant, something expected, something easily replaced. Now compare that to a man whose time feels limited, not because he's playing games, but because he genuinely has a life, goals, discipline, direction. He doesn't drop everything instantly. He doesn't always respond right away. He doesn't make himself endlessly available, and that creates space, and space creates anticipation, and anticipation creates value, because now every interaction feels like something that had to be earned, not something that was automatically given, and that shift changes how she sees you, not as someone always there, but as someone worth waiting for, and what people wait for, they tend to respect more, because the effort required to access it increases its perceived importance. So the goal isn't to disappear, it's to become intentional with your availability, to make your presence feel like something that matters, something that isn't guaranteed, something that holds weight, because once your presence holds weight, your value rises, and when your value rises, respect follows naturally. At the end of the day, this isn't about playing games, it's about understanding human nature, because respect doesn't come from chasing harder, it comes from becoming harder to figure out, harder to control, and harder to take for granted. When you stop being predictable, when you stop reacting to every shift, when you stop making yourself endlessly available, something changes. Your presence starts to carry weight. Your silence starts to speak louder. And people begin to feel you differently, not because you forced it, but because you evolved past being easy to read. And that's the shift most men never make. They stay predictable, they stay reactive, they stay available. And then they wonder why respect disappears. Don't be that man. Become the one who moves with intention, who reveals himself in layers, who doesn't need to prove anything because his presence already does. Now I want to hear from you. Which one of these rules hit you the hardest? And where do you see yourself making that change? Drop it in the comments. And if this opened your eyes even a little, stay locked in with Stoic Spark, because the next video might be the one that changes how you move forever.